This is Taking Stock. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and welcome to the show as Team South Africa prepares to go to Davos 2019. Davos, snowy little village in the Swiss Alps, which has been the gathering point for more than 40 years of some of the world's smartest, brightest, richest, most connected, most capable, and sometimes some downright crooks end up there as well, but they don't get invited back. Kevin Spacey, for example, was a key guest 2 or 3 years ago. Team South Africa being led for the first time by Cyril Ramaphosa as president. Last year, he made waves as deputy president when he turned up with the South African delegation, and the tone of Davos for South Africa changed dramatically. During the dying years of the Zuma administration, South Africa had a very embarrassing appearance at Davos. Nobody was really interested in the South Africa story. Do we get the South Africa story to the international market via Davos in 2019? That is a good question to kick off with Khanyisile Kweyama, who is the chairperson of Brand South Africa, which is leading the charge to the Kirchner Museum, dead central Davos. You can't miss the South African delegation. You'll remember the dying years of the Zuma administration, how it was like tumbleweed central. Nobody was coming to Brand South Africa and to the Team South Africa gathering. Last year was a big turnaround. Are you going to be able to cement that acceptance back into the Davos fold this year?
Thank you, Bruce. Very, very much so. You know, there's a certain energy, I think, that has been generated in South Africa with the new administration, with the new dawn, and President Ramaphosa now, as you say, going as President Ramaphosa. And not only coming with a begging bowl that says we want to start from the beginning, but saying we have done a lot of things in the interim. We have changed just in terms of the institutions in South Africa to give the confidence that so often when you get to Davos, as you say, by show of people's feet and people not showing up, that there is no confidence. But throughout, leading from the last year, 2018 to 2019, there is so much energy and vibrancy that has happened in South Africa that just people are waiting to actually see the delegation and hear directly what else do we have. And obviously we want to get to Davos and benefit and bring more investments. I mean, even in this past 2 weeks as Brand SA, because we do act as a conduit for ensuring that people are talking to each other, we have been receiving requests. Please come and talk to Cisco, come and talk to IBM, promising some companies that would make some major announcements, and we hope that they're ready to do that.
This time last year, the president was able to ride the Ramaphoria wave. Everybody was terribly enthusiastic. Nobody quite knew how it was going to pan out. And since then, the Rama reality perhaps has set in. We do have a broken economy. We have an economy with massive capital outflows. We have an economy that requires huge investment. It requires massive refinement. We require policy certainty. And this document, which has been published this week, which is the plan for South Africa's key messages in Davos, talks about singing from the same hymn sheet. One gets the sense that the South African team is unified ahead of this visit.
Absolutely unified, and you know, and we cannot underplay what messages the ruling party gives. And you as you say, when South Africa went to Davos in 2018, there was a lot of friction there. And not to say it's completely gone, but coming out of the ANC manifestos, events a week ago or a few days ago, there has been that drive that says the messaging is correct. The focus is on the correct things, infrastructure, build the systems around it, serve the poor that the country is supposed to take care of. The message of education came out, and you know we always come short where Davos, each theme talks about going into a future, that a global economy, that as South Africa are we ready to gear up to that. And I think the themes that are coming out, both from the ruling party and obviously carried through into the government, are demonstrating that they do see that you need to be connected throughout. You need to start from the basics. You need to start from the beginning, while respecting the institutions, while ensuring that you are not breaking any laws, while ensuring that the rule of law is sacrosanct. Because those are the words that investors are looking to hear, so that they can have the confidence to invest.
And investors, in reality, will also be asking the same questions around land reform.
Absolutely.
There is still great big gaps in policy and understanding of what the real intention of land reform is, and that message has got to be conveyed again. The President has been very successful in conveying it here in terms of we're not going to cut off our nose to spite our face, but
Absolutely.
land has to be transformed. But that's a question that has to be answered. Reserve Bank independence is another issue that came out of the ANC manifesto, and again it raises questions. It's those niggles that potentially undermine the South African message in 2019 or not?
In my view, in the pre-briefing, the pre-Davos briefing, which the President obviously led, he spoke about those two areas, about land reform and his message was that what this has done, as much as there may be the negative around it, that is saying grab and run, it has forced government to relook and look at the land assets that are being held by government so that it can roll those out. But he also stressed the fact that the Constitution would not be broken, no laws would be broken, and that the ruling party and government is very strong on saying there will be no land grabs. You know, there has to be a systematic, and now when Parliament goes through and makes it live and makes it law, it has to ensure that it's bringing out that confidence in those land conversations. So the message continues to be always respect the Constitution. And the rights to people having land are enshrined in the Constitution, are enshrined in saying everybody shall benefit from the land of this country. And that is what the intention is, to reinforce that without making anybody else feel uncomfortable. And the President also pointed out that business people are coming forward to say this is how we can contribute. And this is how working together and being cohesive assists, ensuring that everybody sees the role that they can play instead of being critics on the side and feeling that this is a big hocha that is not going to assist us.
A big hocha. It's a technical term. We should take that language to Davos and see
Absolutely.
if
Our South African dictionary is rich with words that the rest of the world needs to benefit from.
More with Khanyisile Kweyama in a moment. She is the chairperson of Brand South Africa. South African delegation, it's a delegation of about 100 business and political leaders and, of course, all of the support crews that go along to convince the world about South Africa's investability. But it's a deeply competitive space. The meetings that are held, the gatherings that are held, Khanyisile mentioned a couple of those that we're going to be meeting with the likes of IBM and others in Davos. And although it's not the place where deals are made, it is a space where discussions can happen and a free interchange of thought can happen. It was at Davos, I think in 1992, with the South African delegation, which then included Tito Mboweni, Trevor Manuel and Nelson Mandela, were told by the global community that they needed to rethink the management of the economy once that the ANC was in power, and it did transform the thinking of the government in waiting back then. Davos certainly is a very influential gathering. We'll talk more about that influence and the way in which we can use that influence to our advantage next week when Davos 2019 kicks off at the World Economic Forum. In a moment.